think it'll be a lot of fun to do. I think people are really into this kind of video content more than regular
Yeah,
podcasts. So
yeah.
I'm excited to
It's
do
a
this.
new way of life around here.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll get started, and I want you to introduce yourself to everybody, also because I would really like you to say your last name for me so I get it right.
Absolutely.
Tell everybody where you live and a little bit about your life, your family, stuff like that.
Sure. So my name is Benji Rosenzweig. I live in Detroit. I've been here since 2004. Before that, I was a East Coast guy. I lived in Virginia, DC, Baltimore, and most recently New York. And that's where I spent the majority of my formative years. My first Umphrey's Mcgee show was actually Mowdown of 2003. Hell of a Night started with Miss Tinkles, and I was hooked pretty much from there. And I've got 2 kids. I've got a daughter, Nama, who's 10, and I've got a daughter, Ella, who's 9. They're not Irish twins, but they're pretty damn close. They're about 15 months apart. I'm married. My wife, Sarah, is an awesome wife and an awesome mother. And yeah, I'm a huge Umphrey's Mcgee fan, live music fan in general. And I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So how is social distancing going for your family right now?
So my younger daughter, Ella, has special needs. She's got something called Coffin-Cyrus syndrome. So as soon as this started and they were talking about medically fragile people, I'm like, that's my family. Medically fragile kind of defines her. So no, it doesn't define her, but it's an attribute.
Right.
And so most of Michigan started, quarantine or social distancing and all that about 10 days ago, and we started about 22 days ago. So today is April 2nd, and we started on March 12th. So we've been we've been locked up for a little over 3 weeks. So
yeah, same for us. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been keeping it tight here, but we're making it work. We got lots of fun activities, and between work and school and play, we're having fun. We're making it happen.
Yeah, it's amazing how time has really kind of, you're finding ways to really to fill the day.
Yeah.
There's at the end of the day, I'm like, we still were able to, between school and work and spending time together, you're still not really having a lot of downtime, I guess, with kids is probably the biggest reason they're keeping us busy, for sure.
Yeah. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I played more guitar in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last 3 years. And luckily we've gotten very comfortable focusing on songs that my kids like. So I'm learning less Umphreys and Fish songs and more Lizzo, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That was interesting the other day. So.
I'm sure it was. It's how it is with my 9-year-old. She likes all this other music, and I'm like,
okay. Yeah. And learning the songs and being like, I'm not going to sing that lyric to you. I'm going to choose that. So
that's where the real creativity has to come in, like on the spot, ad-libbing,
exactly.
Improvising.
Exactly. So what rhymes with shit? Yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure, for sure. So I see your the mantras that you do daily with your oldest daughter. It started on the way to school, but now you're still doing them at home. Talk about that. Talk about why you started doing those with her and how you've seen it improve her mindset and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So my daughter, Nama, who's in 5th grade now, switched schools for 1st grade. So she went to a different kindergarten. And on the driving to school on the first day of 1st grade, she was like, concerned, worried, you know, having all the anxiety that kids have on the first day of school. And I had seen a guy on the internet doing some mantras with his daughter, and I was like, I was ad-libbing, I was winging it, and I was like, let's do some mantras and just get you in the mindset of, you know, I can do whatever I need to do. And it just became a thing that we did every morning on the way to school. And at the beginning of this school year, somebody had asked me about it, and so I recorded it and did it as a Instagram story. And a bunch of people responded, were like, hey, those are awesome. Can you send me a screenshot of like the text that you use? And it just became a thing that we do every morning on the way to school. We do these mantras, and I post them on my Instagram stories, and it's pretty cool. We got introduced to a teacher in New York who does this with her class every day. And a few parents around the world who also do it every day, and sometimes they post it and tag me. And you know, it's great for my daughter. It's hard raising girls. I mean, you know, I was never one, but I hung out with a lot of them in school. And it's hard. It's hard being a 10-year-old girl today. And so the mantras are pretty simple. It's, I am strong, I'm smart, I'm beautiful. I can do anything I set my mind to. Nothing in this world can stop me but me. My mom loves me. My dad loves me. My sister loves me. My aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents love me. My goal isn't to be perfect. My goal is to be better than I was yesterday. And today, in this current situation, we've added, I'm healthy and I'm following the quarantine protocols. And it's just basically I'm taking care of myself, and everything that I need is I have. And I wish I could tell you that it's just there to build my daughter up, but it's a great way for me to start my day every day, because, you know, I'm in sales, and sometimes days are good and sometimes days are bad, and sometimes I feel like I got kicked in the teeth, and it's not a bad way to start my day before I go into a meeting, telling myself that I'm strong and I'm smart and I'm beautiful. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Those are things everybody, you know, needs to tell themselves every day. That's so awesome. So how are they like handling everything and with not being able to see their friends and do their regular activities? How is that going for them?
Some days are good, some days are bad. You know, we've got quite a bit of cabin fever here. You know, we're very, very lucky. We have a really cool playscape in our backyard. So we've got a slide and swings and monkey bars and stuff like that. So we get outside almost every day. Some days, you know, it's been cold and rainy a couple of days. But for the most part, you know, we spend an hour or two outside every day. And as far as seeing their friends, there's some kids in the neighborhood that my daughter's friends with, and we can, you know, wave across the street. And her friends from school, I mean, we've got technology, Zoom, just like we're doing now. And so she's got her classroom that she participates in every day, or every school day. And she's seeing her friends, and it's pretty crazy. I've spent more time talking to my friends who are in different parts of the world in the last 3 weeks than I generally do, just because we're checking in on each other and we're making sure that everybody's okay. And, you know, so my sisters are FaceTiming with my daughters almost every day. And, you know, I was telling Nama that, you know, this is not social isolation, this is social distancing. So we're staying physically far away from people, but we're actually more connected right now.
Absolutely. That's very true. I feel the exact same way. You know, reaching out to people and talking to people that, you know, if it were a normal Friday, you know, you wouldn't think to text that person or, you know, whatever. So it's, in a weird way, it's kind of nice. I don't know. It's weird, but you're absolutely right. So let's switch gears, and why don't you tell everybody, and myself included, a little more about the origins of the yellow balloons?
Yeah. So before we talk about the origins of the yellow balloons, let me just explain what the yellow balloons are. So yellow balloons are a group of sober music fans. Probably the most notoriety or the most well-known are the Wharf Rats, and the Wharf Rats are a group of sober Grateful Dead fans. And like with any, situation, there's a little bit of a conflict. And when was the first Wharf Rats table? When was the first Wharf Rats meeting? But essentially, in the middle of 1986, a couple of guys who were on tour, who were in AA and NA, were trying to connect with people because, if you're sober, concerts can be a slippery environment. And so, a couple guys got together and connected and said, "Hey, let's meet up," and essentially had a little AA meeting, not sanctioned, but a little recovery meeting at Set Break. And by the end of that year, it was an official thing where the Wharf Rats were a group of sanctioned sober fans who got together. They had a table. And people were able to connect and understand. And it really was a slow progress of kind of attraction rather than promotion, and saying, we're here, this is a resource. If you're in the same boat, you can come to us and be there. You have probably seen stickers that look like this, or pins that look like that. And the one show at a time is a slogan from the recovery, one day at a time. And it's supposed to be catchy and, and it's effective. So, it started in '86 with the Wharf Rats. In 1996, again, there's when was the official first meeting? So, Halloween of 1996, when Fish did the Talking Heads cover, which is one of the greatest shows, in my opinion. Was the first unofficial fellowship meeting, and that's fellowship with a PH, obviously. So that started in '96 at Halloween. It wasn't officially sanctioned by the band until the following tour, so the winter of '96 going into '97. That's when the fellowship was official. And then in the late '90s, you started getting Mo and the Disco Biscuits and Umphrey's, but really in the early 2000s is when those the Happy Hour Heroes started for the Mo fans, and the Digital Buddha started for the Disco Biscuits fan, and the Jellyfish started for the String Cheese fans. And there's probably, I'm going to make up a number, 80% overlap, right? So I'm a member of all those groups, and identify as such. It was early 2009, it was probably late 2008, when a conversation started around having a group for Humphreys and Mcgee. And there was a lot of talk about what that looks like and how do we start a new group. At the time there was social media around, but it wasn't as prevalent. We were still using Yahoo groups to communicate around the country. But February 5th of 2010 is when the first official Much Obliged table happened. And that was at the War Memorial in Nashville, Tennessee. And so we just had our 10-year anniversary. We have tables at most shows, not every show. Usually it's every big show will have a table. Sometimes either the venue's too small, and so there's not room, or sometimes we're in a city where there's just not a large sober presence, and so we'll have trouble finding a table host. But the majority of Umphrey shows will have a Much Obliged table. So then Much Obliged is the name of the group.
Awesome. So then how did the Yellow Balloons come into it?
So the Yellow Balloons, again, and this goes back to the early days of the Wharf Rats. They were just looking for a way to identify one another in a sea of people wearing tie-dye. Didn't want to stand up with, an AA sign or anything like that.
Right,
So,
right.
you know, dude with sign, you know, wasn't a thing that,
Yeah.
but, you know, the yellow balloon was just a way to identify, you know, this is where the table is. You know, yellow is a color that is visible from a distance. And
Hmm.
so we owe that to the wharf rats, the guys who started that. And that has become the universal image for the sober rock and roll, sober music community, is the yellow balloons. And so generally, you know, when people talk about the recovery community, they'll, you know, they'll use the wharf rats, the fellowship, or yellow balloons as a general overview or a general identifier.
Okay, okay, that's cool. I did not know all of that, so that's very cool. Thank you. So explain, you have your tabling at a show, and someone comes up. So what exactly do you offer people at the show?
Yeah, great question. So I just realized I'm like my dad. I take my glasses off and put them on to answer questions. Oh my God. Oh, man. I'm not looking forward to aging. So first of all, I think it's important to note that we are not promoting sobriety, and we're not telling other people what to do. I have had a lot of fun doing a lot of unsavory things and ingesting plenty of different types of chemicals and liquids at concerts. And so we're not here to tell normal people that they should or shouldn't be doing those things. What we are doing, though, is saying if you're somebody like me who chooses to not drink and not do drugs at shows, this is a safe environment, and there's a group of people here who think and feel similarly. And so the tagline that we say is, we provide traction in an otherwise slippery environment. And the idea is, you know, when I was starting to think about, you know, not doing drugs anymore and getting sober, I was on tour with Fish and, you know, seeing Dead shows. And I remember I would walk by the fellowship table. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to see anybody. But I would kind of stand over there and just identify, okay, those are people who are sober, and if they can do it tonight, I can do it tonight. And then I'd walk away. And it was actually at Brooklyn, so 2003 or 2004, when Jay-Z, the night that Jay-Z came out with Fish, this woman walked over to me. She's like, dude, you've been creeping the table for the last couple of nights, just kind of standing and staring at us like, is everything okay? Are you all right? Do you need anything? And I just opened up and I was like, yeah, I'm struggling. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to stay. And I talked to her for like 20 minutes, half hour, and we're still friends today. So that's basically what we do is there's usually two people there. They have candy and some stickers, and they're just there to be a resource for people. A lot of people come up to us and just say hi and say, hey, I've got a relative who's sober, or my friend's sober, or my friend needs to get sober, or I didn't know you guys existed. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm in recovery and I'm glad that you're here. And, you know, I was amazed. I went to New Year's 2 years ago to Umphreys and at the Tab, 4 nights at the Tab, and hanging out at the table there and talking to people who had no idea who we were or what we were doing or why we were there, and then them finding out that we were sober and they were sober, and just having these connections and conversations, you know, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. You know, and sometimes, every once in a while, we get somebody who shows up and is like, you know, you guys would be a lot cooler with a little bit of acid. Okay.
There's always one asshole.
Yeah, it happens.
There's always one.
There's always one. Sometimes there's a couple,
Yeah.
but for the
Like,
most
all right,
part,
bro.
yeah, for the most part, the general, not just Umphreys community, the Fish community, the Dead community, the general live music community very much embraces, in my experience, very much embraces what we have going on, because they know that we are a resource for the community, and we're there to help. And you know, that's what we're there for.
That's awesome. I think it's such a beautiful thing. And this, the Umphreys community, but, all the communities are so, family driven and belonging. And I think this is awesome to have just another piece of that, another like subset of people that get you and get where you're coming from. And there's no doubt it's helped a lot. So since we're all, social distancing anyways, and having to connect like this, how has that been for people in your group?
That's a great question. The community in general, the recovery community in general, I don't want to say especially, but definitely including the yellow balloon community, has really embraced, for the most part, the Zoom idea. So we've got some very, let me try that in English this time. We have some fairly active Facebook groups, Much Obliged, the Fellowship, the War Frats, fairly active on Facebook. I started a Much Obliged Instagram account called Ja Junkie. And every once in a while somebody gets the fact that I added an H there, so it's Ja Junkie, not Ja Junk. So it's J-A-H. But we were fairly active with social media before, but for the most part, we only really saw each other when we go to shows. So, whether it's Detroit or Chicago or Cleveland, I mostly go to Midwest shows. That's when I see, my people. We now have a nightly yellow balloon Zoom meeting every night of the week. And we have a pretty decent amount of people who join. We're doing twice, and that, again, these are not affiliated with AA or NA or anybody else. These are also not affiliated with the bands. These are autonomous groups. We started twice a week, a big book study, which is, again, not affiliated with AA, but more relevant specifically to AA. Just because I'm not able to do that in my normal weekly schedule, I can't do that right now. And we just started, tonight will be the first night where we're doing a speaker meeting. And these are general meetings that are more in line with what somebody would find either in AA or NA or other recovery related groups. And those communities are doing it, and I say those as if I'm not included, but I am. You can find AA Zoom meetings easily, but we're doing that in the yellow balloon community because we like each other.
Yeah.
And so we want to see each other's faces. We want to make sure that we're doing well. And so, it's interesting that I'm seeing, we talked about this earlier, I'm seeing some of my friends more now than I was before. And I posted this on the Junkie Instagram and Facebook. This is not social isolation. This is social distancing. So we can't physically be next to each other, but emotionally, interactively, online, spiritually, like we can be connected and give each other the things that we need so that we can continue to do this and be healthy and grow and succeed. And, isolation sucks for normal people.
Mm-hmm.
Isolation in addiction can be death.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't want that. We want people to stay mentally, physically, and spiritually healthy. And so I think as a community, we've really stepped up and are helping one another. Brendan doing the why not doesn't hurt. Getting a little bit of, new live music on the reg is not a bad thing. I mean, we've seen some really wonderful music coming up in live feeds, whether it's Trey doing the recorded stuff, which is awesome. I mean, I think we had 5-6 new Trey songs. I don't know if you've seen what Reed Mathis is doing. I mean, Reed Mathis has just opened up a massive amount of new music. And some of these are things that, we've seen him play before, and some of this is brand new. Keller Williams, love that dude. He's been doing some great live streaming, but the guy, Brendan's done some really cool stuff. Joel's doing it. You know, it's great. So
it is great.
You know, getting some of that, you know, musical energy has been good for me. I enjoy it.
Oh, absolutely. It's been great for me too. It's certainly helps. And, you know, even their live streams every Monday is, you know, it's like something I'm, you know, scheduling now, and it's great. So how many members are in Much Obliged right now?
That's a great question. So our Facebook group has about 1,100, somewhere in between, which is a pretty good representation of, you know, that group. The fellowship probably has like 6,000 plus. War Frats is a bigger number. That's just based on the fan base size. You know, I'd say the size of the meeting at the show versus the size of who participates daily in Facebook groups are very different. So, you know, the fellowship has a fairly active group on Facebook. We in Much Obliged have a very active Facebook group. You know, maybe you have 20 or 30 people who are like regular posters. In the fellowship, it might be a little bit more than that. And the War Frats is probably a little bit less than that. But at a typical Midwest or East Coast Much Obliged table, you'll probably see anywhere from 15 to 30 people. Detroit will get 30 people. Pretty much every Much Obliged table in Detroit will have about 30 people-ish. You know, you do Atlanta, you do North Carolina, you do New York, you'll have, you know, 20, 30 people. You know, Portland, Maine or Portland, Oregon, you'll have 4. You know, so, and then for the fellowship, you probably have, you know, anywhere from 50 to 60 people at a normal fellow show. I've been to fellowship meetings where there's 100. You know, go to Madison Square Garden, you'll have 100, 150 people at a meeting, you know, easily. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. So if someone, you know, you were talking about creeping at the table before somebody approached you. So if somebody doesn't want to take that approach to, you know, kind of putting themselves in there, what is the best way for someone that is seeking help and, you know, maybe wants to become a part of the community? What is the best way for them to do that?
So great question. So there's 2 different answers today versus on a show day. So on a show day, walk up to the table, introduce yourself, say hi. 99 out of 100 table hosts are freaking awesome. And the one who isn't freaking awesome is just regular awesome. You know, they're the people who volunteer their time and energy are fans who love the music enough to be there and love the community enough to say, I'm not going to go stand inside and watch the show. I'll stand out here and be a resource. So these are special people who are really amazing, you know, giving service, you know, of themselves. So on a normal show day, walk up to the table and say hi. Don't be an idiot like me or like I was. Today, if you're struggling, if you're out there and you're struggling with recovery, or you're in recovery, you just didn't know about us, join the Facebook group. Caveat: if you're an Umphrey's fan and you're just interested in what we've got going on, but you're not interested in recovery, please don't join the Facebook group, because we really want to keep that forgive the language, but we would really want to keep that a safe space that's just dedicated for people who are either sober or trying to get sober. And if you're not sober and you're struggling, join. Like, we're there to help. We've got people who have, you know, who are on day 1 who join, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the beauty of us being at the shows, is that if you're in day 1, you know who we are and you know that we're a resource for you. Instagram's a little bit different. You know, we do the birthday shout outs and we make some funny memes. And so if you want to laugh at good Umphrey's content and laugh at some funny memes, follow us on Instagram. We're more than happy to have you. If you don't have Facebook and you want to connect with us just through Instagram, just send us a DM, and we're happy to have the conversation. But yeah, if you're out there, in practicing social distancing and you didn't realize that there was a sober live music fan community, we are here and we are a resource, and we want to talk to you and we want to engage with you. We want you to know that, we're there, and we do some pretty cool stuff in that Facebook group.
That's awesome. So tell us all where we can find everything on social media.
Yeah, so Much Obliged is the name of the Facebook group. The Fellowship, Wharf Rats, Jellyfish, Happy Hour Heroes, those are the different, I said Google those, but search those on Facebook. And on Instagram, it's @JawJunkie, and that's JAHJUNKIE. So, but yeah, that's the thing. And actually, I want to explain one thing that a number of people have asked me about on Instagram. So on people's anniversaries, birthday anniversaries, we do a meme where I just take their name and I put together some images that represent that, and attempt to be funny, and sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. But we take their anniversary date, and we calculate it by 23.16 minutes, and we actually made stickers that say 23.16. 23.16 is the time count of the Onward and Upward from May 3rd, 2014 at the Cap, which in my opinion is the greatest version of that song and top 10 Umphrey's jam ever. That is absolutely epic. I've listened to it many, many times, and I actually use it sometimes to time my run. So a 23-minute run is a perfect amount of time if I can get in, like 2.5 miles. That's a good amount of time before I feel like I'm going to die. So I never get 3 miles. That's a fallacy. But if I can get like 2.5 miles, it's great. But 23.16 minutes is kind of a joke it's become. So if you've got 5 years, I'll multiply, 5 years, divide that by 23.16, and that's how many Hall of Fame Onward and Upwards you have. And so people often are like, what does that mean? What is HOF? Like, why, how many is that? That's what it is. So if you see on our Instagram, somebody's been sober for that many HOF Onward and Upwards, that's what we're talking about. It's the 23.16 minutes of the May 3rd, 2014 Onward and Upwards. And if you don't know that song, go check that out.
Go listen to this. Listen to that after we're done here. Definitely do that.
And you can watch it on YouTube. There's a great version on YouTube.
I love that. That's awesome. And I did not know that. So that's great. And I'll be sure I'll link that upward in the show notes too with everything else. So everybody remembers to check that out. So of course we have to kind of finish it up with talking about Umphrey's Mcgee. You already shared your first show. How many shows have you been to?
That's a great question. I stopped counting in, I think, like 2009, 2010, when when Fantasy Tour became this like toxic cesspool of unpleasantness. And I was like, I don't even want to log in anymore. So I just stopped counting. I try to hit 3 to 5 shows a year. So I'm lucky I live in Detroit. So I get 2 shows at the Fillmore every year. Occasionally we get a summer show, but we get a Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo show, and we'll get a Toledo show and a Cleveland show. And, on a good year, I'll see 5 or 6 shows. Knocking on wood, I haven't missed a Fillmore Detroit show since they started going there. So, I think when I stopped counting in 2009, I'd been to like 40-ish, 45. So, I don't know. If hit me back. I'll go back and I'll try to log in and
trying to figure it out. You can do your count on all things Umphreys too.
Oh.
Yeah, you can like set up an account on all things Umphreys, and then it'll give you like all your stats of like the songs you've heard or not heard, or
all right,
it's
well,
like
we'll follow up on that. We'll see if I can. I don't think I've hit 100 yet, but I should soon.
sounds like you would be pretty close. Yeah. So what is your favorite Umphrey show memory? If you had to choose one.
My favorite Umphrey show memory. So I mentioned that my daughter Ella has special needs, and she spent between like 2015, 2016, and the beginning of 2017, she was in the hospital a lot. I'm giving you more information than you need. Forgive me.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, she was in the hospital 19 times in 18 months.
Oh my God.
And it was an average of like 15 to 20 days per stay. So it was a pretty shitty couple of years. And during that time, actually, so Baker's Dozen was right in the middle of that. And I was supposed to go to Baker's Dozen, and I couldn't go because she was in the hospital, and I was just feeling shitty. I felt down, and I was talking to my sponsor, and he said that I should do a gratitude list, which is something that I've done before, but it wasn't something that I was doing at the time. And I posted in Much Obliged, and I was like, hey guys, I'm going to do a 30-day gratitude list challenge. I'm going to post 10 things every day that I'm grateful for, and anybody who'd like to join, do it with me. And we probably had 25, 30 people who every day posted 10 things that they were grateful for. And at the end of a month, that's 300 things that you're grateful for. That's pretty awesome. But it really gave us an opportunity to really get to know each other really well and really learn a lot about each other. And by the way, that gratitude list thing is still happening. And we still post 10 things every day. There's a whole bunch of people who do it. And, people come in and out, and, so I was, through that thread, I started talking to a couple guys who were planning on going to Umphrey's in New Year's in Atlanta. And I was like, can I get away? Can I do it? And I said, you know what? Fuck it, I'm buying a plane ticket. And a couple of guys, I'd never met them in person. They're all from Alabama. So my buddy Azar and my buddy Maddie and Alec, they were like, yeah, we're staying in a hotel. I'm like, can I just stay with you guys for the weekend? And they were like, yeah, sure. So I flew to Atlanta and spent 5 days with guys that I'd never met. And we ate really well. We hung out. We had a great time. We stayed in a hotel that was a walking distance from the venue. And it was 5 days of respite that I really needed. I just got away from, it was the first time since my daughter was born that I was able to travel to go see music. And it was, kind of a pivotal moment for me in just seeing that my daughter had gotten somewhat healthier. So I was able to get away and do that. But those 5 days of that, New Year's at the Tab, which if you're looking for great jams, Umphrey's put out Back at the Knack?
Yeah.
From those nights, that was awesome. And that was my favorite. Those are my favorite, Umphrey's memories is those couple of days, just, kind of getting away from it all and connecting with friends. And I talk to those guys every day, just about, they're good guys.
That's very cool. So I've seen videos, and we've talked about this too. Talk about your youngest daughter dancing to the triple wide.
Yeah. So music is very important to my daughter. She loves it. It's a great way to communicate. It's probably some genetics, she loves it. But when she was probably 4 or 5, I was listening to Live at the Murat on my computer, and she heard that the beginning of that song where the drums come in, and it's like, I'm sure you know.
Mm-hmm.
And she just picked up her hands and kind of went like that and did the air drums. And I was like, did you just enjoy it? And she just got up and she was in. And I was like, all right, let's dance. And that day we ended up dancing to that song like 3 times in a row. And it just became a song that, was her go-to dance song, which I've got no problem with.
For sure.
But we've used that again, in hospital stays when she's not, when she's kind of bumming, and she's pretty incredible. Even when she's not feeling good and in pain and uncomfortable, she still has a smile on her face most of the time. But I've got, some videos that are saved in my phone as favorites where, she's kind of like laying there and not feeling good and just kind of bumming. And I turn that song on and she's like, or she'll, pick up a doll, Big Bird, and she'll dance with Big Bird or dance with Ernie or something like that. And so, yeah, most people think of that as an awesome dance song, and, it holds a very special place in my heart because it makes my daughter happy, and I'm a sucker. I mean, if you make my kid smile, I'll do anything for you. So, yeah, not to plug another Umphrey's album, but if you want to hear an awesome version of an awesome song live at the Murat, it's a great version. And it's been like 5-6 years now that we've been, dancing to that version of that song. It's great.
That's awesome. So tell us a way that Umphrey's has inspired you in your personal life.
That's a great question. A way that Umphrey's has inspired me in my personal life. A lot of the musicians that we follow are experts at what they do. And a lot of them take themselves really seriously. I had a business mentor who said, I don't take myself seriously, but I take my business very seriously. And I feel like the guys from Umphrey's really live and breathe that, where they are experts at what they do, but they are also fucking goofballs in their own right. So, how many bass players do you know that would stand up on stage with a Borat swimsuit on? And how many guitar players do you know who would get up there and put on a goofy mustache and they really engage their fans, and I appreciate that as a fan who gets to take advantage of the interaction that they give us. And some of the band members engage with the fans more than others, but hey, we're all humans. And, I don't think that there's anything more that I can ask from those guys as far as engaging with our community. When I say our community, I don't mean the sober community. I mean the fan base. The last couple of weeks of having Why Not, and now, Joel stepping in, and now Joel and Ryan are doing the Ask Us Anything stuff. Like, it's, so your question, how do they inspire me? They inspire me to understand that in my professional life, I'm really good at what I do, but don't take myself too seriously. I'm still a fucking human, and be a human.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that answer. Okay, so I have one last question for you.
All right.
Describe Umphrey's Mcgee in 3 words.
Describe Umphrey's Mcgee in 3 words. So number 1 is rock. Number 2 is fun. Number 3 is vibe.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, that was a hard one.
I always like throwing that one in at the end and seeing what people come up with.
so funny story. So we've got friends who are, sober all over the country, and we've got this Yellow Balloon Zoom meeting, and a friend of ours from Colorado joined, who's not part of the Yellow Balloon groups, but she's sober, and she's awesome. And we're in this meeting, and everybody there is talking about fish, and she's like, what is going on here? She's like, do I have to like fish to be in this group? And I'm like, you're a rocker, don't worry about it. We're not going to get you to like fish, but we're going to get you to like Umphrey. She's like, oh, that sounds awful. I'm like, listen, lady, this is good stuff. She's like, listen, I'm a metalhead. You got nothing for me. And I'm like, actually, saying I'm a metalhead. And so I made her a playlist, and she's working her way through it. And she said she's having a good time. She's enjoying it. And so we're gonna suck another one in.
It's so easy to do, though. It's so easy. Yeah. Like they just do it for us. We're just like, just listen to this.
Yeah.
And then get back to me.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah. So actually, I put Miss Tinkles on the list for her. I'm like, if you're into metal, that's they know what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Well, this was wonderful. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for putting this together. I appreciate you.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot more about the sober community and what you guys do, and I hope that other people learn more about what you guys do, and hopefully there's some folks out there that can benefit from having this community. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.